Everyone is speaking out about this as the Celtics see Kristaps Porziņģis go down with another injury in this contest, and it's getting more and more concerning on if Kristaps Porziņģis is going to be able to stay healthy with the Celtics team, as he's already sustained 3 injuries so far since coming back from his main injury. Plus, the Celtics struggle in three-point shooting and defensive metrics in a game versus the 76ers in which they could have won on Christmas Day. And we're going to be looking at, is this a bigger issue for the Celtics than most think? We'll be diving into all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez. Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. Sorry for no uploads on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I was with my family, but I hope you guys had a great one with yours, celebrating either Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever holiday that you celebrate with your family or by yourself. Hope it was a great one and you got exactly what you wished for. And I'm hoping that you guys got some cool Celtics merch as well. But let me know what you guys got down below in the comment section. Without further ado, let's dive into the video at hand today. Make sure to grab a snack. And first, we're going to be diving into some new injury updates, as we've seen some stuff with Kristaps Porziņģis, obviously him sustaining an ankle injury. We have some injury updates for tomorrow's contest versus the Indiana Pacers that we got to get into as well. So like we said, like we broke down earlier, we see this tweet from Celtics on CLNS. I do not have the video, but this is the play where Kristaps Porziņģis tweaked his ankle. Porziņģis has now exited a game with an injury 3 times in the 11 games since returning from surgery. And this is becoming a little bit of an issue for Celtics fans to kind of comprehend, as we obviously know Kristaps Porziņģis has been an injury-prone player for a majority of his career, dealing with injuries obviously in New York and in Dallas as well, even a little bit in Washington. But Washington had a really good season when Bradley Beal got hurt, and that's what boosted up his trade value to be acquirable by the Celtics. And last year, he dealt with some injuries here and there through the season, but the Celtics held him for a decent amount. And then in the playoffs, he was out a little bit. Some fans got concerned, but it was still able to win a championship with Porzingis playing in limited time. But with Porzingis being out to the start of this season and the Celtics seeing some issues with some interior presence down low, having some great defensive metrics, and struggling on that side of the ball, a player like Kristaps Porziņģis is a little bit more needed this season. And unfortunately for the Celtics, he's been dealing with those injuries and hasn't been able to be as readily available. Now, Porziņģis left that game on Sunday versus the Wizards, then came back Monday and played with that heel injury. He then left this game and, could not be as concerning as many fans think, as he could be returning shortly. But if we want to look at the injury update for tomorrow, we can see that Kristaps Porziņģis with that left ankle sprain is questionable. Jrue Holiday, who was also out on Christmas Day, is dealing with a right shoulder impingement. He is also questionable for the game as well. And I kind of want to speak what Noah Dalzell said, because she does a fantastic job covering the Celtics on CLNS and for Celtics blog, but she basically hits it home for what I feel like every Celtics fan, including myself, feels about this situation, which she says the concern is that these injuries feel unavoidable with Kristaps Porziņģis, kind of talking about a setback, and said not particularly worried about the latest Kristaps Porziņģis injury, but worried about the pattern of injuries he's unfortunately continued to deal with. And that's how I feel about this as well. As personally, I think these minor ankle injuries or minor heel injuries aren't going to sustain Kristaps Porziņģis out for a long time. I think it's going to limit him maybe a game, possibly 2. But in the long run, those things add up. And if these little ticky-tack injuries do add up, and it ultimately leads to Porziņģis missing an extended period of time later on in the season or possibly in the playoffs from dealing with some recovery from these injuries and or retweaking an injury that he already suffered and making it even worse, I think that can make it a bigger issue. The Celtics also, like I mentioned, had a little bit problems with being a good interior defensive team, with Porzingis being out as well, with Horford getting a little bit older, with Kata and Cornette and Tillman having to find their roles and kind of play. Experience is needed within the Celtics big man rotation. So a guy like Porzingis is necessarily needed to play for the Celtics team. And unfortunately for the Celtics, with him being out and dealing with these injuries and those guys kind of being a little bit inexperienced, the defensive rating has dropped a little bit. And that's also not what you want to see. And like I mentioned, Porzingis dealing with these injuries, I think they're just going to kind of hinder him for the majority of the season. I don't think this necessarily is like a big time, like glaring issue, but I do think it's something to be concerned about going later on into the season, as you kind of see these injuries kind of pile on and pile on, it's going to make it even more concerning for the Celtics to have a fully healthy Kristaps Porziņģis, or even have Kristaps Porziņģis be able to retain what he's able to produce for this Celtics team. If he keeps getting injured and keeps getting a little bit older, he could come to a reduced role, and that could be not great for the Celtics as they're paying him long-term money. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said, I don't necessarily think this is an immediate issue with the Celtics, but could be something to look long-term with this team. But next, let's dive into the other news as well. We're going to be talking about, is this concerning? We're going to be looking at some of the Celtics' disappointing qualities in yesterday's game and kind of analyzing some metrics compared to last year and looking at, is this alarming for this Celtics squad? So let's dive in and let's look at this. Oops, sorry. Did not mean to hit that there, but let's dive and let's look at this. If we want to look at this from Daniel Donovan, we can see that Jayson Tatum on the Celtics defense last night. So we let that slip up a little. That's on us, all on us individually. When asked Jaylen Brown this question by Zach Cox, Jaylen Brown said the Celtics' game plan on defense was to make Caleb Martin beat them. That goes why Martin was 7 from 9 from three-point range. He's done this before to us in the past, but going into it, we felt comfortable with him getting all of their shots and getting their opportunities. And unfortunately, Martin was that Celtics killer once again for the Sixers. And it doesn't matter if he's wearing a Heat jersey, it doesn't matter if he's wearing a Sixers jersey. As long as he's playing against the Celtics, he is out for revenge. And that's a smart move by the Celtics, I'm not going to lie, letting a player like Caleb Martin get those open opportunities. But that wasn't just the main issue with this Celtics team. I think yesterday, like we said, and like I've broken down a little bit, the defense has been a little bit of an issue as a team for the Celtics. And individually, the Celtics have gotten worse defensively. Now, that could be just due to the fact that Jrue Holiday wasn't playing, and a player like Tyrese Maxey was able to go off versus the Boston Celtics. And having a player like Jrue Holiday was able to limit Maxey's creation on the offensive end, as he's one of the better premier guards on the defensive end. And I think that's the case as well. But ultimately, we've seen with Holiday and with Horford, them get a little bit older. And Horford has, shown a little bit of signs of age this season in some instances. Off fresh legs, he's very, very solid. But in nights where Horford is required to step up, or maybe even big producer role, he's been a little bit quieter this season. We haven't seen any 15, 18-point games really screaming from Al Horford this year, and Jrue Holiday has also been a little bit stalled on that offensive side as well, as he hasn't been able to produce as much from that three-point shooting as much as last year. And we saw with the Celtics, Peyton Pritchard 0 for 8 from 3. Celtics just struggled in some three-point metrics, and that's ultimately what has caused some of these rough patches for the Celtics. They lost back-to-back games to the Magic and the Sixers, which was the first time this season that that's happened, and it's ultimately been caused due to some defensive issues by this squad and this team not being as consistent from three-point range. If we want to look at the stats, pull them up for all you guys here. This is the Celtics defensive rating this season. They rank 8th currently in the entire NBA, and last season at a defensive rating, they ranked 2nd in the NBA. And if we want to look at three-point shooting percentage for the entire NBA, the Celtics are all the way down in 15th, where last year they were 2nd. Now, obviously, looking at this three-point percentage, the Celtics are shooting 36.5%. The best team, the Cavs, are shooting 40, so they're not too far off, and a lot of these teams are shooting around 37%, so the Celtics can climb back up there a little bit. But the Celtics, like we said, compared to last season, even are shooting a little bit worse. Last season, they shot a team 38%, which is a little bit low, and defensive rating, they had a whopping 110, where this season they have a 109. So, for the Celtics this year, teams have been a little bit more aggressive on defense, have been better than them on defense, and they've fallen off a little bit on that. And some of that is due to some injuries and not having Kristaps Porziņģis for the entirety of the season, having guys like Al Horford getting a little bit older, having a guy like Xavier Tillman not be able to really step up into his role this season. Luke Kornet has been very solid. Kata has given us some good run, but also has given us a little bit of some concerning run as well this year. And I do think that the Celtics this year are lacking a little bit in that three-point shooting and that interior defense. Sam Hauser's also dealt with some injuries as well with some back spasms. Peyton Pritchard didn't have the greatest game last night, but I do truly think that if this team can fully stay healthy, and if we see these minor injuries kind of coming now with Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porziņģis, but later on the season, if we can keep this course, I still think we'll be okay. I still think we'll be a top-tier contender in the East. I think it's going to be more competent with some other teams, and it's not really as a blowout race compared to last year for the Boston Celtics, but I do still think they're one of the top teams, and I do still think that there are some possible adds that this team could make. They still have that $4 million Jaden Springer contract that they could still use to throw in some trades here and there around the market, so keep an eye for that. They have the possibility of using a guy like Xavier Tillman as well. He's kind of fallen out of the rotation. I don't think he'll necessarily get moved, but it's also a possibility as he has another year on his deal. Ultimately, the options are endless. Brad Stevens, I do believe, will make the right move. But let me know what you guys think about this Celtics team. Do you think the defensive issues, do you think the three-point shooting is a bigger issue for this Celtics team with them shrinking down in that? Or do you think they'll just fight through this rough patch and be back at the top once again? And let me know what you guys think about the Kristaps Porziņģis injuries as well. Without further ado, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics. Peace out, everyone.